Welcome, Facebook viewers. We appreciate you joining us for this week's episode of the Bond and Bonus Facebook Live. We do these episodes every week, and we try to address topics that are of interest to people in our community and the communities we serve. And today, our topic is really targeted towards the aspect or the portions of the community that we really help at Bond and Bonus and people with credit issues. Um, uh, many people that come to us are very concerned about their credit scores and their credit reports. So today we have one of the experts, one of the persons in the country that I think knows more about these issues than anyone else. Phillip Tirone runs a company by the name of 720creditscore.com. If you haven't been to the website, it has a great deal of information. Phillip, thanks for joining us today.
Brad, it's a pleasure to be here, and I just love to dispel the misconceptions around credit scoring and just what people think will happen, especially around a bankruptcy, and but what the reality will happen.
Yeah, well, there certainly are a lot of misconceptions. We've been doing this type of work, and I know you have also for decades and decades, and we try to correct some of those misconceptions, but they're still out there. So we're going to make another effort today. Phil, I know you, and I know you as somebody that bankruptcy attorneys across the country, both within my firm and other firms around the country, have gone to for help um, uh, advising clients as to how to rebuild credit following a bankruptcy. Can you elaborate a little bit on your background, how you got into this field, and what you do on a daily basis?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it all started, I was in the mortgage business and way back, and I went into a bank to deposit a check, one of my paychecks, and I was overdrawn. And the teller said, you can apply for an overdraft protection and you'll never have to pay the overdraft protection fees. I said, okay, great, let's apply. She's like, well, we're going to have to run your credit. I said, okay. I thought to myself, I have good credit. And she ran my credit, and she said it sort of like in a loud voice, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Tirone, you've been denied. Your credit score is too low.
Right.
I'll never forget that moment. I was so embarrassed. I looked around. Did I just hear that? So I went back to my mortgage company. I ran my credit, and I had some collection, and I just didn't pay attention to credit. So I thought to myself, well, it's sort of disingenuous to provide loans to people if you can't get the best loan yourself. So I hired a credit repair company to help me. And I ended up getting a letter from either TransUnion or one of the bureaus saying, your credit file is locked due to fraudulent activity. It was like, fraud? What happened? And they emailed me, or they contacted them on the phone, and they said, you sent us a letter saying that this collection was a mistake and needed to be taken off. And it was some consumer finance company. Right. And what the credit repair company did was basically fraudulently create a letterhead and send to the bureaus, and it just happened to get audited. Fortunately, I didn't sign the letter, so I could say that's not my signature. I just hired a credit repair company. But at that moment, I realized I can't refer anyone to credit repair. And I started using my credit as a guinea pig. And years and hundreds and thousands of credit reports later, we work with bankruptcy attorneys all around the country, helping their clients rebuild their credit after bankruptcy and, to get their life back. And that's what we focus on. That's what we do.
Well, and you do a great job with it. But,
Thank you.
You've already aged both of us by talking about going into the bank to deposit a check because, most young folks today, they take a picture on their phone or there's an automatic deposit. But a lot of the rules are still very similar. I had a similar experience, got married out of law school. My wife and I wanted to buy a home, and we applied for a mortgage, and these things popped up on my credit that I couldn't explain. I had to look into them, and from that day forward, I've tried to keep a close eye on my credit. Yeah. So to our viewers, the Bond and Bonus law offices are located throughout Alabama and Mississippi, and we help people with money problems. And we know after this last year and a half, a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people have financial problems. We're coming to an end of the eviction moratorium, the foreclosure moratoriums. We did an episode a few weeks back about the fact that student loans are going to become payable again soon. So a lot of things happening. And at this point, the Bond and Bonus Law offices are offering absolutely free initial consultations with an experienced attorney. So if you're having financial problems or you think you're going to have financial problems, be proactive, folks. Reach out. We're doing these consultations from the safety and comfort of your own home or office, if you prefer. We'll meet with you like Phillip and I are meeting today by video, or we'll meet by telephone, but we want to help you. Our attorneys are experienced. We've been doing this for decades and decades, and we just want to offer a free consultation and give you some direction. We want to talk today about a concern that virtually every one of the thousands and thousands of clients I've met with over the years have expressed. And they always say, and Phillip, I know you've heard this, they always say, but I don't want to file bankruptcy. It'll ruin my credit.
Yeah.
So let me just put that out there, Phil. The person says, I don't want to file bankruptcy. It'll hurt my credit. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, when I hear this often, and you know, I don't want to file because I don't want to ruin my credit. So I guess what I say, and I say this over and over and over, is first of all, your credit is easily rebuilt after bankruptcy, and a lot faster than people think. Right? We can get into that a little later, but you know, we can rebuild the credit score from bankruptcy discharge, foreclosure. And during a chapter 13, we can build from wherever it is, 550, 500 credit score to a 720 credit score, somewhere between 12 and 24 months, right? Yeah. And it happens over and over and over. We have 100,000 people that have gone through our program, you know, post bankruptcy. So we just understand how the system works. So I guess my first thing I would say is this is not going to be a ball and chain for 10 years. It's not going to be with you forever. It's going to be a short pivot where we're rebuilding your credit. And frankly, what I hear most is bankruptcy attorneys tell me, or the clients tell me, my credit is now better than it ever was before I filed bankruptcy, because they got rid of all this debt and all the burden of the payments.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, because the other factor is, by the time most people come to see me, unfortunately, they may already have missed a mortgage payment or two. Yeah. They may have missed a car payment. They may have a credit card in default. So the credit's already in bad shape. And as you and I both know, getting that bankruptcy discharge can create a fresh start for a lot of reasons. And let's go into this kind of step by step. So if I go through a bankruptcy and I get a discharge, when should I start rebuilding my credit, Phillip?
So on a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is, you know, the elimination of all the debt, it's right after discharge. You start rebuilding your credit right after discharge. And we can go into how we do that a little later, but it's very easy, right? During a Chapter 13, it's after the confirmation. So you can explain this better than I, but during a Chapter 13, you pay little payments over the course of a number of years. Right. And what most people are surprised to hear, I mean, you can have a 720 credit score during an active 13 years before you get out of the 13. We have hundreds of clients that have gone into a 13, raised their credit score, and actually bought a new home during an active 13, right? So, and it just, you know, it's a common misconception that people don't even realize is possible.
It is, and to clarify there for our viewers, and we've done episodes on this in the past, but a Chapter 7, most people think of as a straight bankruptcy, a fairly quick proceeding where you're able to eliminate or discharge most of your debt. Typical Chapter 7 bankruptcy takes 4 to 5 months to get to that discharge that Phillip talked about. In a Chapter 13, you propose a plan to catch up or pay back part of your debt over a period of time. And there are a number of reasons why somebody may choose a Chapter 13 over a Chapter 7. And Phillip, in my part of the country, in Alabama and Mississippi, Chapter 13s are probably more common than just about anywhere else in the country for a variety of reasons also. But for our viewers, Chapter 13 is a reorganization bankruptcy, while Chapter 7 is a straight bankruptcy. So that's fascinating to me, Philip, and I want to ask you about that. Rebuilding credit while in an active Chapter 13 bankruptcy.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that an individual can do that?
Well, so the key to rebuilding after a bankruptcy or during a bankruptcy is establishing a different type of payment, new credit around the bankruptcy. So a lot of people come to me and they say, how do I get that bankruptcy off my credit report? Like they come to us thinking we're going to get it off the credit report.
Right.
And my response is, well, did you have a bankruptcy? And if they say, well, yeah, I had a bankruptcy, I referred my bankruptcy attorney. I'm like, okay, well, trying to get it off, even the act of trying to get it off is illegal. Let's not try to get anything off the credit report that is legitimate. And frankly, I don't care if they have 20 late payments. I don't care if they have a foreclosure, a bankruptcy. I can still get them to a 720 credit score in 12 to 24 months just by rebuilding around the bad credit. So there's certain, yeah. Were you going to say something, Brad?
No, I'm shaking my head because I agree completely with what you're saying. That's been my experience. Absolutely.
Well, and not only that, I mean, people spend thousands of dollars with credit repair companies. That is an absolute waste of money. They don't even do what they're going to say most of the time when they promise you, I'll get a bankruptcy off your credit report. No, you're not. Right.
Well, and you and I become frustrated with those type companies because their advertisements sound so good. They're going, in fact, the example you gave early in your career, you contacted, it sounds like, one of these type companies.
Yeah.
And often they engage in just fraudulent activity. They just continue to challenge items, hoping that the company won't continue to report the debt, but it's not effective. And usually, if it sounds too good, it's going to be too good. Go to somebody that's proven, that's been doing this for a long time, and that has good reviews. Somebody like Phillip Tirone with 720creditscore.com.
Thank you, Brad.
So I also hear this, Philip. I hear people that come in and they've had a bad time with credit and they've got behind and it's really been agonizing. And they say, you know what? Once I get through this bankruptcy, I'm never going to incur credit again. I'm not going to use credit cards. I'm not going to take out any loans. Is that a good approach to take?
Well, so here's the thing is if you do not, people think that once I file bankruptcy, my credit score is going to naturally go up. And it does to some extent, but it doesn't get us to the point where you're benefiting with your car insurance and your car loans and stuff, things like that. And when people say, I'm going to wipe my hand clean of credit, when we talk about credit scoring, I'm not saying we should go back in debt. Matter of fact, in our program, we coach against that, right? All we have to do is play the game of credit, because the truth of the matter is this is a game. And if you're not playing it, you are hurting yourself and your family financially. You are. I mean, you will overpay on car insurance. You will overpay on homeowners or renters insurance. You will overpay. I mean, if you ever get a car loan, I mean, a simple example, the difference between a 720 credit score today and a 659, like the average person wouldn't think that a 659 credit score is a bad credit score, but that 61 points is 7.44% difference. Wow. It's $100 a month on a $15,000 car. And
over 60 months, that's $6,000
for the same car. Yeah, Brad. I mean, we're talking the same car. And this is what I try to just share with my clients. I'm like, look, all we have to do is play the game. And we're going to rebuild some credit. You're going to get a credit card. You're going to get a secured card. You're going to buy one thing per month and you're going to pay it off. And I would argue, and I have this often on our question and answer call. So we feed people and we educate people a couple of ways. One is through, an online portal, but also I do these type of live question and answer calls with the real people asking real questions. And a lot of people that ask me this say, you know what, I don't want to go back in debt. And my response is, I would argue that after you go through a bankruptcy, you're not the same person you were. You're not going to make the same decision. There's a small percentage of the people that play the game, right? But as our clients, Brad, the average person is being pushed into bankruptcy with medical bills, student loan repayment. They just can't afford it and they need a break. And this is why the laws of bankruptcy work for our debtors and work for our country. It's a very critical piece, and they don't go out and just get in debt again. They've learned.
Yeah. Philip, everybody, I've been doing this for 35 years now,
Yeah.
and everybody seems to have a negative perception of somebody that files bankruptcy until they're in financial trouble on their
Yeah.
own.
Right.
And financial problems, as you just said, can result from a number of different reasons. It could be health problems. It could be a divorce where suddenly the same, income is supporting two houses instead of one house. That there are so many things that can happen to people that we're acting in good faith. The stereotypical bankruptcy is somebody just like you or me, or the people that I may go to church with, or my kids' parents, kids' friends at school's parents. They're people we run into every day. And the fact that they've filed bankruptcy, the only way I tell folks you really know is that they have a lot less anxiety and stress than they had before they sought advice from a bankruptcy attorney. Now, Philip, you just made a good point, and I'm not sure a lot of people understand this, but a credit score impacts a whole lot more than your ability to just get another credit card. Um, Insurance rates, purchasing a car, there are so many factors that are impacted by a poor credit score. So, to that individual that says, all right, I've gone through this bankruptcy, I've had some problems, I'm not going to incur debt again. We don't tell them to rung up debt, but we do want to make sure they know their credit score is important for many other reasons.
Absolutely.
So, just how quickly can I get my credit score back up? If I get a Chapter 7 discharge, or I've got my Chapter 13 confirmed, I hear still to this day, so my credit's ruined for 7 years, or my
Right.
credit's ruined for 10 years, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I'm convinced that the banks created that narrative. Right. Okay. Let's
Yes.
get in everyone's mind. Let's run a PR campaign that if you file bankruptcy, you'll never get another credit card again, or you'll never be able to get a car loan or home loan, because that's what keeps people the fearfulness of it. Once they realize that no, all the freedom you want in life financially is going to come out of this rebirth that's going to happen out of bankruptcy, right? And I say often, if our clients understood what this rebirth and this new life was going to give them, they'd file tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's this misconception that they just have that, oh my gosh, I'm screwing something up, right? So to your point, Brad, or your question is, it takes, I always say it takes 12 to 24 months. But the reason why I say 12 to 24 months is because inevitably some people, they don't start the program immediately, or they drag their feet, or they don't do a step or whatever. Right.
Right.
So I say 12 to 24 months to give me plenty of room. But I mean, we have constantly get pictures sent to us of people, and they're like, oh, hey, here's I'm standing in front of my new house, right? These, and you go to our Facebook page, we have dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of people who've submitted their picture with their testimonial, and it's just real people, real results. I don't know most of them, right? I've never talked to most of them.
Right.
And we have one lady who recently raised her credit score from the mid 5s to 719. And I think she said it was 4 months, maybe it's 5 months. But it's all about how quickly they follow our steps, because it's like gravity. I know the credit score will rise. It's just a matter of like getting the ducks in order. And that's what we do for our clients. It's easy. I want to make it abundantly clear. This is easy. It's simple. And that's a constant theme we hear from our clients. We have, I think it's 570-ish Google reviews. And you'll see it consistently. It's like, wow, this is easy. It's a lot easier than I thought. And the common other thing is, thank God I filed bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God I took this step, right?
Absolutely. And before I comment further, Phil just talked about answering questions. If any of our viewers today have questions, please feel free to post them. I'm going to let Philip answer some of those questions near the end of this episode. Philip, I want to make it clear, neither you or I are saying bankruptcy's a good thing or should be a person's first step. But we both know that people deal with financial problems, insurmountable financial problems, for far too long before they reach out for help because of all of these negative perceptions they have about bankruptcy and the impact it's going to have on their lives. And those are the folks we want to talk to today. If you're having financial problems, if you need help, if you need someone to talk to, reach out. We'll provide an absolutely free initial consultation. And if bankruptcy is right for you, if seeking protection under the bankruptcy code is good for you, we want to help you rebuild your credit following the bankruptcy just as soon as possible. And Phillip's company does an excellent job of helping people. 720creditscore.com has been around for how long now, Phillip? I know you've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
97. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So again, people, go to somebody you know and you can trust that's been around for a while, whether it's with filing your bankruptcy petition or in rebuilding your credit after you file a bankruptcy. So another question I get often, Phillip, is how long after a bankruptcy will it take me before I can buy a home? Because I really want to buy a home. What's your answer there?
So it depends on the type of bankruptcy. So if it's one of those clean bankruptcies, I think you call the Chapter 7.
Straight bankruptcy, Chapter 7, right?
Straight bankruptcy. So FHA has a 2-year requirement. It can be reduced to 1 year with certain circumstances. And then with regards to a 13, it's during an active 13. I believe FHA's requirement on that is 12 or 18 months of on-time payments of the 13. But it's very, very easy and very reasonable time frame.
And it's not this 7 or 10 year waiting period that most people hear about. The 7 and 10 and so now 8 year period, folks, it comes from the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's the amount of time that the bankruptcy filing can be reported on your credit report. But that by no means signifies that you have bad credit. In fact, Phillip, in response to the comment you had earlier about how can I get a bankruptcy off my credit, you said, well, that may not be something you want to do. It wouldn't be legal to do, but furthermore, the bankruptcy itself can actually create, I tell people, if they know you filed bankruptcy or a straight Chapter 7 bankruptcy, they know you can't file again and get a discharge for an 8 year period of time. So I assume that also can be a good point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's when I think of people and when people talk to me about what's on their credit report, they will find out very soon once the credit score goes up and they reestablish it the right way, right? Around the bankruptcy, then it becomes a moot point. Frankly, a lot of our clients forget once they get the 720 credit score and they forget about us, which is good, right? They forget about us. They're forgetting about you, Brad. Right. I mean, they're just moving on in their life and they're moving on without their debt and without all those financial pressures. And it's really, it's just, they don't even, yes, people, when they run their credit report may see a bankruptcy from 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years ago, but it's not something that they even bring up. That the bank wouldn't even bring it up as long as we rebuild the credit the right way.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough, folks. And this has changed to some extent over the years. When I first started filing bankruptcies back in the 1980s, it was a little bit more difficult to rebuild credit. But today, it's almost the opposite. I have to work with people to keep them from getting into the same situation again, because the offers of credit start coming in fast and furious after that bankruptcy discharge. Yeah. So, Phillip, it's kind of interesting. You and I are both in businesses where we don't want repeat clients. We'll help them if they get into trouble again.
Right.
But if I file a bankruptcy for somebody, I hope their life going forward that they're able to enjoy the benefit of that fresh start, that they're able to rebuild their credit. And you're the same. You said clients forget about you. Well, that's your objective, to get them to a point where they don't need to worry about their credit.
Absolutely.
But we take what we do seriously. So you mentioned items on their credit reports, and people are concerned about getting that negative information off their credit reports. I want you to talk a little bit more about that. We talked about the bankruptcy in particular, but if a prospective lender is looking at my credit report following a bankruptcy, what are they looking for?
Well, so, keep in mind, I was in the mortgage business for many, many years, right?
All
So
right.
I had the benefit of looking at thousands and thousands of credit reports before I even started doing this. And what I would hear consistently, and I hear it consistently to this day, is, oh, you had a bankruptcy. Okay, so what new credit have you established after the bankruptcy? Because the common misconception, people think, oh, without credit, I'll have good credit. No, it's the exact opposite. Having no credit is as bad as is equal to having bad credit, because there's no feedback that the bureaus can give. So they don't assume the good, they assume the bad, right? So that's the point. The point is we need to reestablish credit around the bankruptcy. So when the bankruptcy is shown, okay, you had a bankruptcy in 2021. Okay, what credit have you established after it? Which is why we talk about, the need to get 3 different types of revolving credit, right? And revolving is credit where, like a credit card or a secured card or something like that, where you can use it, pay it off, use it the next month, but there's no set, payment. And the other type of credit we need is sort of like an installment in credit or installment line. This is like a set period or set payment for X number of months, right? And that doesn't have to be, easy examples like a car loan, but you don't have to go out and get a car loan for that. There's credit rebuilder loans. There's different things you can do to reestablish your credit for very, we're not, this is easy. Like, I just want to, Brad, I keep bringing that up because people think credit's hard.
Right.
They think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to write letters and I'm going to spend hours a week. No, you're not going to do any of that. Right. And my biggest problem is pointing people in the right direction. You mentioned a few minutes ago that when someone files bankruptcy, they get to get all these things in the letter about credit cards. Right. Well, the problem is on that note, there was a Federal Reserve Board study done. 44% of credit cards don't report the proper credit limits to the bureaus. If you don't have the proper credit limits and you charge $1 on that credit card, you're maxed out, which is going to drop your credit score. So this is the thing. Like I have to navigate for my clients, all the misconceptions with all the bogus marketing from credit card companies, buy here, pay here dealerships. Like it's tough. And I know you deal with it too, right? You deal with Alabama and Mississippi.
Absolutely.
This is what I'm dealing with.
So go ahead, Phillip, at this point and give our viewers kind of a synopsis of exactly what you do at 720 Credit Score. I know there are steps for people to take and go through. Tell us about how you help people following a bankruptcy.
Yeah, well, primarily we work with hundreds of consumer bankruptcy attorneys around the country, right?
Right.
And when we decide to marry bankruptcy in our credit program, it really allowed me to help more people. For the first 12 years of doing 720 Credit Score, I helped 12,000 people, right? The following 12 years, I did 100,000, right? It's just became so much easier when I partnered with bankruptcy firms. And this is all we do. We focus primarily on rebuilding credit after a bankruptcy to give these people a fresh start and take this misconception out that you are going to be, strapped by this bankruptcy for 7 to 10 years. Right. And how we do it is we have an online portal, which has all, plenty of information someone can consume at their own pace. And my videos are specifically, the longest one is 7 minutes long, the longest video. Okay.
Right.
I have some videos that are 3 minutes long. I don't want to take a lot of time on credit because frankly, once you understand the basics, it's easy. Right. And we talk about what to do if you're married. Rebuilding credit when you're married is a nuance, and we can talk about that a little later. But what really, we do that, we also have live question answer sessions. And this has turned in, I mean, this was a afterthought, frankly, but Brad, it turned out to be, frankly, the biggest part of our program, where we email everyone and say, call in for your live question and answer sessions. And we have hundreds and hundreds of people that listen and call in on a, whenever we have these, they just listen in. They don't ask a question. They just want to listen. Because the reality is my credit problem is the same as yours. It's a different account number, a different balance.
Right.
And once you understand this, but also it's very therapeutic to hear hundreds and hundreds of people that have the same exact problem. I mean, where do you go to get the reality about, like, oh, I have bad credit? You're not embarrassed to talk about it, right? So we have those two aspects. And then the last thing about 720 credit score, when you get enrolled by your bankruptcy attorney, you have lifetime enrollment. And it's not just lifetime for you, it's lifetime for your kids. I mean, like, we are very generous. I say on the call all the time, I'm like, if you have your son, your daughter, give them your username and password. Like, we have to share this information, right? The more we share it, the better it is. And some people after a bankruptcy, they're just exhausted and they just want to pause it for 6 months and pick it up in 6 months. And we'll be there for them when that time comes.
Wow. And it's a tremendous service you provide. And I want our viewers to know that, at Bond and Botus, that we're not just here to get a bankruptcy filed for you. We're here with you for the long run also. We want to help you with issues with your credit report. And we want to help you by getting you to somebody like Phillip and his company to help rebuild your credit. It's very easy to do. There are tremendous resources. But just like taking the first step in calling a bankruptcy attorney, you've got to be proactive. You've got to reach out for help. Folks, I know a lot of you are having money problems right now. And I know how tough it is to deal with those problems alone. I know the impact that stress of dealing with debt that you can't pay can have on a marriage, or on your ability to be a good parent, or on your ability to do your job correctly. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the impact on your marriage and your health. Reach out for help. You don't make any commitment by calling us and just learning what your options are. We're offering absolutely free initial consultations throughout Alabama and Mississippi right now. You can either call the number that will be on your screen, or you can go to our website, gather a little bit more information, and fill out a form there, and we'll reach out to you. But we'll arrange for you to talk to one of our experienced attorneys one-on-one, confidentially, where you can get your questions answered. And if you seek bankruptcy protection, and if we help you get through that important period in your life, we're then going to get you on the road to rebuilding your credit. And there are tremendous resources available for you to do that. Phil, I want to give you an opportunity to answer some of the questions that we've started to get coming in from our viewers.
Sure.
I've got a list of them here. So, interesting question here. There are 3 primary credit reporting agencies. Is one more important than the others?
No, I mean, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And one's not necessarily more important than the other. Certain creditors report to certain credit bureaus. Not all creditors report to all the bureaus. And each credit bureau has their own algorithm. So that's why the credit scores are different, because certain credit cards report, or certain credit agencies report to certain bureaus. But no, the key thing is, when you go to a bank and they run your credit report, and we always look at, like, the main example are like a home loan, for example, because they run all 3 bureaus. They look at the middle credit score. So, I wouldn't say that one's more important than the other, but we just want to get them all up so that we can get the middle score the highest, because that's what they're going to look at.
So all 3 are essentially important. You want to make sure there's not inaccurate information on any of them. So we talked about the period of time it takes to rebuild credit following a bankruptcy. This next viewer asks, how often are credit scores updated?
So they're updated all the time. I mean, one of the quick credit strategies we have, which I've seen work tremendously. So say, for instance, you're buying a car or buying a home, and you run your credit and it's just artificially low, right? what you do is you want to look at your credit report, see where, if there may be a balance that's temporarily high because you plan on paying off the card, right? I hear that all the time. I pay my cards off in full every month. I don't have to worry about this utilization number. That's how much of the credit card I'm using. I don't have to worry about it because I pay it off in full each month. And that's not the case. You need to, because when they run your credit, that's a snapshot in time. So for example, if the client has a $1,000 credit card and they're paying it off tomorrow, but they ran your credit report today and it's $900, you're 90% utilized. Your credit score is going to be 30, 40 points lower.
Wow.
So what I tell people, if that's the case, pay off the credit card or pay it down as much as possible, and then have them rerun the credit the next day. It's constantly updated.
That's fascinating. So credit score may be much better one day than it is the next day or just a few days later. So this next viewer, I think we've already answered the question, but is there a way to get a missed or late payment off my credit report?
Well, there is if it's an actual missed or late payment, right? And the beauty is, you mentioned the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Mm-hmm. We have plenty of ways and capability to get anything that's an error off your credit report. And by the way, 42% of the time, this is lesson number 1 in our program. Lesson number 1 in our program is review your credit report for errors. 42% of the time, we find an error. And that's one error, Brad. I'm not talking about the number of errors on a credit report. So someone files bankruptcy or goes to a 13, we're checking out their credit report 42% of the time. So this is another common big mistake people make. They don't look through the credit for errors, because if you don't get the errors off your credit report, we're not going to get it up, right? And so that's a big problem.
And it's so much easier today than it was years ago to access your credit reports.
Oh, yeah.
I know individuals are entitled to a free copy of their credit report once a year. They can get that from freecreditreport.com. There are other resources available. What about credit monitoring services, Philip? Are those a good idea?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we tell everyone, go sign up for Credit Karma, right? It's a free account. You can't really use Credit Karma's number. Right. I tend to find that it's somewhere between 30 and 50 points higher than what's normal. I mean, I've had people call in these question and answer sessions. Oh my goodness, I was buying a car and I had a 720 or 740 credit score on Credit Karma, and I went in and it's 6 something, right? And then it's a tough situation to be in. You're buying the car, you think you can qualify for the best loan, and all of a sudden it's like, do I wait or pay 4% higher each month, right? Or 4% higher on interest rate. So the thing on Credit Karma, the beauty is you can look for the trend lines. Are the trends going in the right direction? That's the easiest way to do it, and it's free.
Yeah. To emphasize your point, there is so much misinformation on people's credit reports out there. There's so much inaccuracy. At Bond & Botus, we also provide representation under the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Great. And many of the folks that come to see us, we're actually able to find errors that end up paying for the bankruptcy. We can have your creditor pay for your bankruptcy if they're reporting information incorrectly in your credit report, and we'll help you review that. We can sue them, and they're often required to pay you damages, and it may be enough to actually get your bankruptcy filed. So folks, reach out and let us help you review your credit reports, make sure what's there is accurate. And an important thing is to not just look at one of these merged credit reports that often you'll see out there. I think it's important to go to the actual big 3 credit reporting agencies.
Brad, can I jump in one thing on that?
Absolutely.
Also, for all the listeners, I know you know this, but I just want to reiterate this because it's super important. Collection companies, they can be like harassing you. They can call you at work when you tell them not to. They can they can do things that are blatantly illegal. And if you're getting harassed and if you're getting called and it just doesn't feel right, they should call your office immediately especially because you understand the
Right.
Fair Debt Credit Reporting Act. Most attorneys, frankly, don't really get that. It's not, bankruptcy attorneys are, a lot of them are siloed into bankruptcy. But thanks to your firm and understanding that, if you feel like you're getting harassed by a creditor, you call just for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's such a tough situation to be in when you're being harassed, and they'll do it with phone calls, they'll do it with letters. And Philip, they do it in more subtle ways too. These collectors will report information on a credit report that may not be accurate at all. Sometimes it's just flat out wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But it's there because it will pop up when somebody's applying for credit and may cause the individual to pay a debt that they really didn't need to or didn't owe.
And those are the ones that are easy to get off. Talk
Sure.
about getting things off. Yeah, those illegal activities, they can come off in a second and really pop a credit score. I mean, who knows? You may be having a listener right now who doesn't really need bankruptcy. What they need is some help with some creditors, right?
Right.
So,
and there are good laws. In Alabama and in Mississippi, there aren't a wealth of state consumer protection laws, but both the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act are federal laws that we can utilize in federal court to help protect your rights. And we can make these bad guys pay your damages, and they have to pay our attorney's fees also, so you're not out of pocket anything. But Philip, thank you. That's an excellent point. We want to talk to you about your financial issues. Bankruptcy is never going to be the first option. It may be that we can help you clean up your credit report by using the Fair Credit Reporting Act or the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It may be that by getting you to Phillip, we can just help you rebuild your credit. There are always options to look at. A good, experienced attorney is going to help you look at all your options before a bankruptcy is recommended. So, Philip, this next viewer asks a good question here. Are the buy here, pay here car dealerships a good place to go to rebuild credit?
Well, so the problem with I'm going to talk generally here because every buy here, pay here dealership is different, right? But generally, buy here, pay here dealerships don't report to the bureaus. Right? Because they don't want you to reestablish credit. I've had these conversations with them. I'm like, wow, what a great opportunity. I can refer clients to buy here, pay here dealerships. They could rebuild the credit. And it's exact opposite. I mean, I had a buy here, pay here dealership say to me point blank, no, we want the clients to pay here, use our buy from us forever. Right. So the beauty is in dealing with a lot of car dealerships, the larger dealerships, they typically have some type of post bankruptcy or poor credit process or department. And if we can establish credit consistently and then establish credit revolving, with our program, get the errors off the credit report, as long as they get into a starter car, what I don't recommend is going out and buying a fancy car right out of the gate because, the payments are so high when you're paying a 25% interest rate, right?
Right.
But fast forward a year, you're going to be down in 4, 5, 6% if you rebuild your credit the right way. So I tend to move away from the buy here, pay here dealerships because I just haven't found one that supports my philosophy and your philosophy, Brad, on reestablishing credit and your life after a bankruptcy or some type of financial breakdown.
Exactly. There are exceptions. Of course, there are some buy here, pay here places that will provide a decent interest rate and that will report your on-time payments to the credit reporting agencies. But as a rule, we have found that not to be the case. And Phillip is dead on. There are many, many, many car dealerships now that write us, that encourage us to send our clients post-discharge for financing. So the important things are you want to buy your car somewhere or finance your car somewhere where they're going to report your on-time payments that you're going to make following your bankruptcy. And you want a good interest rate, which you should be able to get. It's not going to be the great rate that you may have gotten, before Phillip helped you get your credit score back up to 720. But you can get a decent rate. You don't need to pay that 25% rate
No.
that a lot of dealerships will charge you, or buy here, pay here places will charge you post petition. Folks, it's a lot more important than just what your monthly payment is.
Oh, yeah.
You need to look at the interest and how soon you're going to be able to pay off that vehicle. Phillip, we have that problem often. People just want to know what their monthly payment is.
Yeah.
What do you say to people when they look at a mortgage or a car from that perspective?
Well, I mean, what I say to people when they say that, I'm like, look, we got to look at your options holistically, like completely. You know, what is the interest rate? What is the term? What are the fees? Because, you know, you're making new decisions now after your bankruptcy, right? You know, we're going to rebuild the right way and not the fast way, right? And because if they do, the knowledge transfers to their kids. Because all of us, I mean, we all, you know, most of us have kids. I have 5 kids of my own, and all I want are my kids to stand on my shoulders. And I hear it on these question answer calls, these people calling in, and they're like, let me tell you, I'm learning this because I'm going to do better. I want my kids to do better than me. Yeah. And that's inspiring to me, right?
Absolutely.
So if we just slow it down a little bit, let's not just look at the payment, like you said, let's look at the whole situation. I have people that we refer our clients to. Brad, I mean, there's no one better than your firm. If you have a question on, okay, where do I buy my next car? You'll point them in the right direction. And that's the beauty about team, right? We can make much better decisions together than separately. And, you know, that's where I go with it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We work very hard to make sure our people are able to take full advantage of a bankruptcy fresh start, helping you find the right place to finance a car, giving advice concerning getting a mortgage, featuring experts like Phillip Tirone here today. I want to remind our viewers, you may be watching this, you may be saying, well, this is just great information. Phillip really knows what he's talking about. Remember that these Facebook Live videos live on our Facebook page. So you can refer somebody back to watch this video later. It's also on our firm's website at bondandbotus.com. So many people could benefit from the advice that Phillip is providing today. So please think to refer them back to our Facebook page or to our firm's website for this information. Phillip, interesting question that this next person asked, and I'd like to know the answer to this myself. So I know for a long time, years ago, we encouraged people to get prepaid or secured credit cards following a bankruptcy to rebuild their credit. And this person says, is that the way? Should I get, this person says, a prepaid card to rebuild my credit? My perspective is it's probably just as easy to get a credit card with a small balance post-petition or post-discharge than it is a prepaid card these days. Can you talk about that, the advantages and disadvantages of a prepaid card?
Yeah, Brad, I feel exactly like you. We talk about it in the program. You know, this is step 2 of the program, right? Step 2 is reestablish with revolving credit card. So yeah, start with unsecured, apply and try to get unsecured credit where you can get one without putting a down payment down. But unfortunately, sometimes, you know, because what's on your credit or various things, it's all different. And sometimes it's hard to actually figure out why. The client can't get credit after bankruptcy, right? So if that right away, I mean, I'm talking unsecured credit. Right. So what we want to do is, okay, great, let's keep the ball rolling. Do you have $100 you could put into a savings account and get what's called a secured card for that amount, right? And if they do, they establish with secured card, and then the following card's easier. If they don't have $100 for a secured credit card, there's other ways we can help them to reestablish credit. But a secured card is the backdrop, right? Certain districts around the country during a Chapter 13, they can't get any new debt, right. So they have to do the secured card, right? It just depends on the nuances of the bankruptcy district and of the client's consumer credit. But that's what we're here for. I mean, you know, we're here all the way until the client hits their 720 number, and like we talked about earlier, never thinks of us again, which is fine.
Well, I do want to make this point. I have seen some secured credit cards or companies that bill themselves as providing a secured credit card that doesn't necessarily report payments to the credit reporting agencies. Whatever way you go, I think it's important to make sure that that provider is reporting on-time payment information that you make
Oh, well,
post-petition.
thank you, Brad, for bringing that up. Absolutely. You don't want to do anything that is not reported to the bureaus. I mean, if we're going to get credit, we're going to do the effort. You might as well do it. And while I'm thinking about that, store cards, like cards that can only be used in the store. So, for example, a Home Depot credit card, but it's a credit card that can only be used at Home Depot, right? Just those are called consumer cards, right? It's best to avoid those. Now, Home Depot has a credit card that's a Visa that you get points at Home Depot that you can use wherever. That's a different story. I'm not talking about that credit card. I'm talking about a consumer credit card where it's like, oh, you want to save 10% by getting this Kohl's card or getting this whatever card. Just avoid that. It's not worth it. And the problem is with those type of cards, the likelihood of an error popping up on your credit is higher. And that's why we want to avoid the amount of credit we have on a credit report. We want to be very strategic, because if not, you're going to see these huge swings up and down because of an error. Oh my goodness. And then if you're applying for a home or a car, you see an error on your credit report. Well, guess what? Then you're going to contact us, and we're going to contact you, Brad, and say, okay, Brad, this client's got an error on the credit report, manage it under FCRA or, Fair Credit Reporting Act. So it's just better to be strategic with the credit rebuilding process.
Absolutely, which is why you need the guidance of somebody like Phillip and his company. Certainly, if you're one of our clients, we encourage you to reach out to us. But the important thing is reach out to a trusted source and get advice as you're rebuilding your credit so that you make sure to do it properly. All right, so this next viewer's question is, if I go through a bankruptcy and I surrender my home, what impact will the foreclosure have on my credit report, and what can I do about it?
Brad, it's the same exact thing. I don't care if it's foreclosure. I don't care if it's 5 foreclosures. I don't care if it's a short sale, bankruptcy. I don't care if you went through a divorce and it was nasty and you have 40 late payments. The beauty about the credit reporting industry, and I can go on a litany of reasons what I don't like the credit reporting industry, but the beauty about it is that you can rebuild. You can rebuild from wherever you're at. It really doesn't matter. And that's the beauty about the credit reporting system. So yeah, I mean, we're just going to rebuild around the foreclosure. We're going to rebuild around the late payments or the short sales or whatever it is, and I mean, it's the same basic premise.
Just to elaborate on Phil's comment, you may have 4 or 5 foreclosures. I remember a couple that I represented back in 2009, the last time we really had a dip in the economy. This couple had a number of rental homes that they had acquired to produce income. And when they filed their Chapter 7 bankruptcy, they surrendered 12 of these rental houses, and each one of them were foreclosed upon. Those people were able to rebuild their credit following that bankruptcy in a very short period of time because they took responsible steps following the bankruptcy. So it wasn't just 1 foreclosure or 2 foreclosures. There were numerous foreclosures plus a bankruptcy on their credit, but they were able to rebuild by being responsible moving forward and making good decisions going forward.
The beauty about one quick thing, Brad.
Sure.
The beauty about the bankruptcy laws and the Fair Credit Reporting Act laws and all these things that your firm specializes in is that it's here to protect the consumer, right? And I just can't tell you how often I hear from my clients and saying, I wish I would have learned more sooner.
Yeah.
And I just really invite everyone who's listening, who just, consider and just be like, look, make the call to learn. It doesn't mean you're going to make a decision, but just understand it. And that's the thing I say constantly in our question and answer calls. Take the next step to learn about the information because it can truly shift your life. forever, and your family's life and your kids' life. I mean, you know that, Brad, but I just wanted to bring that up.
There's no better feeling than when somebody finally comes to talk to us, and I know they've dealt with the stress and the anxiety for months, sometimes years, and they finally come into our office, or today we consult by video or phone, but we make the decision that seeking bankruptcy protection is going to get them where they need to be in the future, and the relief is just, we have to keep boxes of tissues. The relief is just overwhelming. People break down into tears, and when they leave, when we're done, there's a new spring in their step because they've got a plan to deal with all of those dead issues. Phillip, we're closing in on the hour, and I do want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to give you a warning. I'm going to say a few words here about our firm, but then I'm going to ask you if I've missed anything and give you a chance just to kind of wrap things up with respect to rebuilding credit following bankruptcy. Folks, I want to say one more time, I know a lot of you are having difficulty paying your bills right now, and things are about to get serious because the prohibition on foreclosures and evictions and student loan payments, all of those moratoriums are coming to an end. And the rubber's going to hit the road. You need to reach out for help. The Bond and Bonus law offices have been helping people with financial problems for over 30 years. We represent people throughout the states of Alabama and Mississippi. We have board certified attorneys, and we are providing absolutely free initial consultations right now. You don't even have to leave your home or leave your office. Give us a call. We'll schedule or transfer you directly to one of our experienced attorneys. There's no obligation. The communication is confidential, but we're going to answer your problems, and we're going to let you know what would happen if you decided to seek bankruptcy protection, or if there's inaccurate information in your credit report that's creating problems for you, or if a collector is being abusive with their tactics in trying to collect the debt that you owe or don't owe in some instances. If you know somebody that would benefit from what you've heard here in this presentation, please share this Facebook Live video with them, or please refer them to our website where these videos will also be available. We have been very, very fortunate to have one of the nation's foremost authorities on rebuilding credit today. Phillip Tirone and his company, 720creditscore.com, have been helping people rebuild credit following bankruptcy for decades now. If you need help, go to somebody that's been around for a while. The Bond and Bonus law offices, we've been doing this for over 30 years, and Phillip and 720creditscore.com have been doing this for close to 30 years now. It sounds like yourself, Phillip. I want to thank you for being here. What have I missed? What do our viewers need to know that we may not have covered today?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, I think we covered the basics of it. And what the theme that I always like to talk about and just share for the consumers is that, there's the pressure you're feeling with your debt and the confusion and the harassing phone calls and all those things. There's a better life out there. And I've seen it over and over since I started working with bankruptcy firms, that life becomes infinitely more easier when you're not juggling. And that's the only thing. That's my main focus. Anytime I do these type of presentations, Brad, I just want people to know that there's options out there, and they're not trapped by the banks and by their collections. And there's something out there that they should at least go check out. Because, I mean, Brad, there's times that people call you and you're doing an intake and you're doing an initial consultation and you realize, oh no, bankruptcy is not for you. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's the beauty, especially working with virtuous firms like yourself. Like, you're going to be you'll tell people the right way to manage their debt. Because I know I hear it from my clients on my bankruptcy, on my question answer calls. They're like, I was enrolled by my bankruptcy attorney, but I didn't have to file bankruptcy. They told me not to file, and they gave us your program. So
sure.
Anyways, I just want to acknowledge that. That's the real theme that I'm looking for. Wanted to get by today.
Thank you. And I know that you and the folks at your company are just like what we do at the Bond and Bonus law offices. We want to do what's best for you. You contact us. You're not just a number. You're not just somebody out there, you're an individual. You've got your own individual challenges, your own individual goals, your own individual objectives. We want to help you, and we're going to give you what advice is best for you. Bankruptcy should never be your first option, but if you do need protection, if you do need help, we're here. Phillip, thank you again on behalf of everyone with the Bond & Bodas Law Offices, on behalf of Phillip Tirone and 720 Credit Report, 720creditscore.com. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. It doesn't matter.
Read what I have on your screen, folks. Don't just listen to my words. But on behalf of all of us, thank you. And at Bond & Bodas, we're all about faith, family, and finances. Please let us know if we can help you. Thank you, Phillip.
Thank you, Brad. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.